If you're watching this video, raise your hand if you have ever mocked somebody with a disability. Now raise your hand if you have ever witnessed someone make fun of a person with a disability. See, that is more common. Now, I had my fair share of experiences observing people's behavior around me. I had classmates who would take advantage of a person with a disability, putting them down just so they could get validation and laughs from their peers. Now, this is what you call ableism, the social issue that we're going to be talking about today. Greetings everyone, my name is Maunahan Elin Beatrice C, and today I'm going to be educating you on the now still prominent dilemma of ableism in today's society. Who are we referring to when we talk about people who are disabled? First, you should know that there are 4 types of disabilities which we will then talk about later on. But now focusing on the question, who are we talking about? Who are these people who are disabled? And keep that question in mind because today I'm going to be educating you on more in-depth overview on people with disabilities and ableism that they face. And okay, so a disability means that one has significant trouble doing tasks that other people take for granted and hinders their full participation in society on an equal basis with others. So there are 4 types of disabilities now that we know. Physical disabilities are the first one. These are the ones that we often encounter, and these disabilities carry on their physical attributes, so it's something we notice more. An example for this are people in crutches and in wheelchairs. The second one is intellectual disability. Now, intellectual disability is something that affects a person's ability to learn and consume knowledge in their daily lives. Next one is mental illness. Mental illness disability is something that we know of in illnesses like depression, OCD, PTSD. Those are examples of types of disabilities that still falls under the term of people with disabilities. And next is the sensory, the last type of disability. Sensory disability, from the word itself, these are the ones that affects the human brain and gets in the way of our 5 senses. What are our 5 senses again? It's sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste. So next, according to research, the statistics of the world's population of people that live with disabilities consumes about 15% of the world's population, estimated about 1 billion people. And imagine that a majority of these 1 billion people undergo oppression and discrimination against their disabilities. So who really suffers in this issue of ableism? Of course, the people with disabilities themselves. Nobody suffers in this issue ableism more than the people with disabilities themselves. Ableism affects them in countless ways. The constant bullying they receive and the countless mocking in social media does nothing but strengthen this issue. Let's talk about the people with disabilities themselves. An example, someone who uses a wheelchair. To them, not all places are accessible. It's a hassle to get around their everyday activities. Said by Finn and Nathan from Washington Edu's article, they encounter this negative experience with societal expressions. Moreover, a large group of people with disabilities are often called slurs and names. This is an ignorant, ableist remark, and the people with disabilities are greatly affected by this. There are more examples that show how people with disabilities are the ones that have gravely been suffering from this issue. But one point still stands. People with disabilities are still people, nothing more and nothing less. They suffer from this issue due to uneducated, illiterate people who are nothing but the cause of the problem. This type of behavior is the root cause of why ableism is still a social issue that is happening to this day. So let's give a real-time experience from a Filipino community and my own experiences. So I've been seeing trends going around, maybe on TikTok and on Instagram. It is normalized in media to mock people with disabilities, and you go through the comment sections of those posts and it's filled with people making jokes. And this just proves that people who suffer in this issue are the people with disabilities themselves, while the oppressors gain nothing but their pride by the end of the day. The Philippine Republic Act number 7277, an act providing for the rehabilitation, self-development, and self-reliance of disabled persons and their integration into the mainstream society and for other purposes. This is an act that addresses the sufferings of people with disabilities. So let's talk about more statistics involving this. First of all, estimates published by the World Bank reports that approximately 1 billion people experience some form of disability. This amounts to 15% of the population worldwide. PACLD also says that there are around 4 million children and youth with disabilities, but only 2% go to school and 1% are properly diagnosed. The cause of this is because of the hesitancy of their families to accept that their child has a disability, and the general lack of reliable data, since that most people are not even clinically diagnosed. This prevents the government agencies from knowing the extent to which people with disabilities are included in mainstream services such as education and healthcare. Lastly, for the possible solutions for this issue, which we can use to abolish this ableism as a social issue. Be the change, start the change, and take action. So I have listed two main possible solutions for this issue, but let's go more in depth with that. First one is more exposure. Make the world a safer place for people with disabilities. Be more open to certain topics and educate yourself. Second, employing and supporting disabled people. Make workplaces more accessible and remove barriers. This is what I mentioned a while ago about people in wheelchairs, how they are unable to go about their everyday activities due to the hindrance of non-accessible places. So, in addition to that, address people with disabilities as people first before their disabilities. It is people with disabilities, not disabled people or the disabled. That is something that we should change about our vocabulary. So now advise countries and organizations to be more open with disabilities, adapt and adjust to make things more accessible to them. Treat people with disabilities as humans. Nothing more, nothing less, and it's the treatment that they deserve. Lastly, I would like to thank these references that have helped me in this presentation. Thank you once again.